Hi, my name's Lindy Cowling. Welcome to my channel. My website is www.lindycowling.co.uk. My email is info@lindycowling.co.uk. And the title of this evening's short video is The Taking of Templates into 5D. The taking of templates into 5D. So as we have been running consciousness in its old formats, and I refer to it as its old format just as a way of simple explanation, as we have been running consciousness in its old format to its old limitations, some of us that are service orientated, some of us that are already geared and already wired to be part of a service orientated template, especially if we have empathic qualities and we are service orientated as part of a main humanity template, we have fallen in a way into the, into the trap of not only being part of those templates, but actually taking on the template, sometimes actually to our own detriment. So what do I mean by that? I mean that if you are part of a service to humanity template, such as Twin Flame Union, for an example, that is not the only template. There are many humanitarian and service to humanity templates here, but that's just one of them. But using that as an example, and you are empathic, and part of your service orientation is to, for example, heal family bloodlines, or something similar to that, and you're empathic as well, what can happen is you can actually take on many of the aspects that need healing, and instead of them transmuting through you, rather like a net with tiny holes so it passes through them, or rather like an old-fashioned sieve or something like that, where it passes through and doesn't stick in a way to your energy or your energy field. It can sometimes stick, and you can literally take it on. So you can take on the energy of it, you can take on the emotions of it, and that can become quite detrimental. And it's, in some ways, it's kind of par for the course, and it's something that definitely has happened with me for many years of my life, and definitely I see across the world that aspect of it. And I would go further still and say, if you're wired in this way for templating, that you can move to a particular area of a country or to a particular country, and you can actually take on the whole energy of that area, or take on the energy of that country, take on the energy of the consciousness of the area or the country that you're in, and not even realize you're doing that. And you're not just running it through your system in a purging kind of action, but you can actually take on those qualities yourself. And again, if you're not realizing that's what you're doing, that can be quite challenging, and it can be quite detrimental. So realizing that not only can happen, but does happen to some people, awareness is key, is imperative, because once you have that realization, you can make some conscious decisions around that, i.e. to alleviate or remove yourself from a situation, or remove yourself from an area. It really means you have to really think twice about where you are in proximity to the people you're around, the area you're around, and the situations you're in. And so this is something that's been happening It's definitely been happening with me, and it's definitely been happening with many of you. And like I say, awareness is key. And once you realize that, it makes you look at where you live and where you're situated and where you're working and who you're surrounded by and the energy you're surrounded by much more carefully. And it's a consideration in when you're making those choices. Where it applies to 5D is if you get to a stage of consciousness where you are then entering a whole new state of consciousness that begins at 5D and goes right the way up through the new blueprints, if you like. I call it the 12D blueprint. If you personally get to a state of consciousness where you reach the entry point to that whole new state of consciousness, the entry point being 5D, those templates that you have been running through you, that you have been purging, that you have been clearing, that you've been part of, that you've been healing, that kind of consciousness and that kind of service that you have been doing has to change. And it has to change because your consciousness is running through you in a different way, and nothing of the old and nothing of purging and nothing of that heaviness exists in the now infinite pure consciousness of 5D and upwards. Which means regardless of whether you are wired as a templater, wired as part of a service to humanity template, regardless of which way you came in, once you decide on a soul level and a spiritual level that you are wishing to be the embodiment of a minimum 5D consciousness and upwards in that new state of awareness and consciousness, templater or not, it doesn't matter what you were doing previously to that, you cannot run consciousness through you. You cannot be consciousness in the same way as you were before, because you simply can't do it, because the service to humanity templating part of it doesn't come with you in the same form when you go into that 5D consciousness, because it is all more or less instant creation, infinite now, squeaky clean, pure, and cannot be affected or in a way infected by any of the old purging states that you were doing on a service to humanity scale before. So it's a bit like a rebirth, being born again into a different state of consciousness that in a way takes you back to that purity in the very beginning. This is why when I see people enter these states, it doesn't matter what age range they were in or what they were doing before, if they were a plumber, if they were a janitor, if they were cleaning the restrooms, or if they were someone that was working spiritually, or if they're someone, whatever walk of life they come from and wherever in the world. It doesn't make any difference. All the difference is the state of awareness and consciousness where they get to a point within themselves when they enter the 5D minimal state. It is like everything else that went before is sponged away. When I say sponged away, it doesn't mean to say it doesn't count for anything anymore. It doesn't mean to say if they're a mum or a dad, they're not a mum or a dad anymore. And it doesn't mean their history is all gone. What it means is it's in terms of their awareness and consciousness, it is like being newborn. It is the true meaning, I guess, of rebirth. So the former purging and clearing and taking on to a certain degree of templating cannot happen in the same form. Even for true sensitives and empaths, they have those qualities within them because in a way that's how they are wired, but they cannot run this energy or be this energy in the way they were before. Not if they have made the decision to enter this infinite, pure state of consciousness, which begins at 5D and goes all the way up. And so really the templating in the form that we have seen it is not existing in the same way in the new energy. It's not running in the same way because the new energy is all about instant creation, and it is service to humanity in a way, in a different way. It is a collaborative state of consciousness with the real act of service in a way, you know, the mission orientated service in a way. The service to humanity is being that state of consciousness, is the actual embodiment of it. Whatever people do with it, whatever projects they decide to do with it, or creative endeavors they decide to do with it, it is them as the embodiment that is actually the act of service, and actually, if you want to call it mission, the mission. And so it doesn't run in the way we've seen energy run before. It's very, very different to that. Anyway, on that note, I will love you and leave you. I wish you all a happy new year, as we're very close to entering 2017 now. And I will love you and leave you. See you again in 2017. Thank you for watching. Thank you for resonating, and thank you for supporting this channel as always. Bye. Bye-bye.